Welcome to Amazon Trash number 4. On today's game show, we're talking about the Votatu V840 white light, green laser, and IR combo. This is another one of those weird situations in which I actually like a lot about a unit, but don't really recommend it either. But it does help to show that the laser/light market is in flux, and that more and more low and mid-tier options are going to be coming in and shaking up the market, and that everyone's kind of a little silly. Now, full disclosure on the Votatu 840 is that a kind gentleman on my Discord asked if I wanted to check it out, and I said sure, so this is on me. No relationship with Votatu or any of these Amazon sellers. There may be a link below, but it won't be an affiliate link. But before we get into that, we actually have a channel sponsor, The Inevitability of Death. Thanks, Death. Memento Mori, gentlemen. Getting into basics, we have a 8-ounce aluminum brick. On the left side of the brick, we have a roughly 1500 lumen white light with roughly 50,000 candela. On the right side of the brick, we have a green and an IR laser in a single housing, but more on that a little bit later on. Unlike most of these cheap Chinesian laser units, the Votatu actually has really good D10 click-style turrets that put to shame most other cheap unit turrets. Unfortunately, it does follow up the trend of having an internal rechargeable battery with a top magnetic charging port that all of these sellers love for some reason. Again, I am going to bring this up a couple more times in the next couple of reviews, but yeah, if you could give me a CR123 or an 18650 or some other battery that I can replace on my own rather than rely on whatever they shoved in there. Moving back to controls, these are actually okay. You have a centered fire button that is somewhat recessed into the body to prevent unwanted discharge. Phrasing. The button works as you would expect: a quick tap to turn it on and off, hold for momentary, and double tap for strobe. I hate strobe functions, just get rid of that. Nobody wants that. It's not 2007 anymore, even if we wish it was. On the left side, we have our mode dial. You have off, white light only, white light and vis laser only, and then finally IR laser only. On the far right, we have our tape switch port, which uses the tiny style jack that is compatible with some other cheapo units on the market, but of course, that's not really helpful since you probably won't be able to find any good switches, even if you did want to use one. One really nice touch is that the included tape switch has a built-in retention system that's pretty simple. Plug it in, twist it to the right, and it clicks nicely in. Doesn't really matter as the switch itself isn't very good. It's not particularly tactile, and I prefer using the built-in button anyways, but it's a nice, simple touch that you don't see very often in any price bracket because none of these options are consumer focused. Moving on to the mount, you actually have a couple different ways to attach these. You can attach it via the pre-installed pick mount. Now you have two cross bolts that torque down on a long locking block onto your rail. A very simple but robust system. You will notice that the two top bolts that hold the mount to the unit are overly long and kind of act like recoil bosses. Kind of. But the point of them being overly long is that you can actually attach T-nuts to them and then mount the unit directly to most M-LOK rails, or at least some. Now, I wouldn't recommend doing that if you wanted to use either of the lasers, as M-LOK is not going to be as robust as mounting it directly to a pick rail, and of course that fire button works really well for mounting it on top of the rail. Weight, form factor, switchology, and mount is all pretty decent. Now let's go ahead and talk about the performance. The white light is very bright. It has a pretty wide but well-defined hotspot that punches out to over 100 yards. Please note, in all of the footage, the far targets is right at 100 yards, and it will punch out beyond that. The beam looks a little cleaner, but performs similarly to a Streamlight HLX Pro, which is 1000 lumens and 50,000 candela, which is roughly what I would estimate the Votatu unit at. Now, something to note about the Votatu brick is that it is a very condensed package, and as such, it gets very hot. Using it intermittently for 30 minutes to an hour, and you are going to notice it getting very warm. Like most powerful white lights, the units will step down in a couple minutes of continuous use so that it doesn't transition from a flashlight to a flash bang. Battery life seems fine, but if you need to use it for a class or something, you don't have a way to quick charge or swap out to a full battery. You would have to have a separate power brick and charge when you could if you wanted to use it for a longer period of time, but that involves holding multiple extra things on your person rather than the batteries you probably already have. Now, talking about the lasers, they are very powerful, probably a little bit too powerful and certainly not civilian legal. The green laser can be seen in broad daylight, but the power seems to pulse and doesn't have a consistent beam, so it flares up and down randomly at times. You can actually see me using it here to film through an optic with a GoPro, and I'm actually using the Votatu laser to aim with, and the laser works well for that. Now, the IR laser is very overpowered, as you can probably tell in the footage, and I don't know what you would use it for under nods other than target or POI designation, but it does have one odd performance quirk. Because it's used in the same unit as the green laser, there is almost a full second delay between pressing the fire button and it actually turning on, and it is very, very noticeable. There's a delay, like a 1 second delay between pushing the button and it turning on, so it's kind of worthless. But it does have it, which is interesting. The green laser only, which this is now the green laser, the green laser does not have a delay. It just turns on. So that's kind of nice. It might have something to do with the path switching electronically or something, but it is very annoying. Now, bringing all of this into focus, the unit comes in at about 95 bucks, sometimes less, and just for the white light and form factor, I actually kind of like it. The center fire button works great on a 10.5 to 12.5 rifle, keeps the rifle relatively slim, and the performance is decent. Do I trust it that much? Not really, but then again, how much do I trust my Streamlight HLXs and their switches? Neither one is exactly the pinnacle of reliability. But hey, it works better than the Jackal did. Really? Is everything gonna fail on me? Now, I have had the unit for several months and used it on a couple different platforms. On the Reap SCY, it was on a 300 Blackout for several hundred rounds. It was on an 11.5, and then of course the Jackal towards the end. And reliability on it has been fine thus far, but don't consider this a long-term review. Now, do I recommend it? Not really, but it is kind of neat in concept. Now, springboarding off of what we have and what I might actually want, sort of anyways, is the exact same body and switches. Probably get rid of the M-Lock mounting capability, don't really need that. Just have the pick mount built directly in, swap the white light for a slightly tighter patterned IR illuminator and IR laser only. Probably drop the power on the IR laser to be more appropriate. Just get rid of the Viz laser entirely or put it on the secondary circuit so the IR laser comes on instantly. The turrets are already good. The fire button is good. Get rid of the strobe, of course. Mode selector is good. Give it the standard crane plug in the back, and bam, another solid budget IR laser unit that can be comboed with a good dedicated white light if needed. That's mostly just me screaming at clouds again. But this has been Amazon Garbage number 4. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. Let me know what you think of the Votatu 840 in the comments down below. And once again, with all that out of the way, guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I will see you in the next one. God bless.